Time now to bring in our panel of parliamentary journalists. Susan Delacourt, columnist for the Toronto Star, Joël-Denis Bellavance, parliamentary bureau chief for Presse, and John Ivison, columnist for the National Post and parliamentary bureau chief for Post Media. Good to see you all again this week. Susan, leading into the Conservative convention, Erin O'Toole was telling his critics to, look, back off, make the virtual convention a positive pivot point for the party, heading into an election sometime soon. How did Erin O'Toole emerge from that Conservative gathering?
Well, generously, I'd say mixed. His Friday night speech, I saw John and I were both tweeting about that. I thought the speech was very well crafted, well delivered, made a strong case, and was actually a bit brave. You know, to walk into virtually a room full of thousands of Conservatives and say, you know, the way you are right now, you're not so, we got to change. The problem was that his own party then made that really unfortunate vote, climate change, voting down the phrase climate change is real. And, you know, they're saying it's not climate denial, but it took, I think the Liberals set a new land speed record today in question period. First question up was not on climate at all, and Liberals answered it with climate change is real. Every question had some reference to Liberals liking science.
We had a minister at a committee today before the hearing began saying, I want to know where you all stand on climate change. Is it real or not? So, JD, let me pivot to you. As Susan points out, Liberals wasting no time trying to capitalize on this apparent divide in Conservatives over whether climate change is real or not. How big of a problem is this for Erin O'Toole? And I suppose, especially in Quebec, where he hopes to be making inroads.
It was a big deal in Quebec. Everybody talked about this, and the people were asking whether the next question that will be asked to the Conservative Party, whether the earth is flat, and what kind of answer we'll get on this one. So the Conservatives' credibility took a hit, but to repair that, I think the only way to do it would be for Erin O'Toole to announce what would be his environmental plan way ahead of the election so he can fix that problem that he's got on his hands right now.
John, what's your view on that? And what's the challenge for Erin O'Toole here if the party's offside with him on this idea that they need a change and he's trying to pull them with him? How big of a challenge is he going to have here?
Well, I think it's a huge challenge, and I think he's culpable in creating it, to be frank. You know, he ran as a true blue Conservative, convinced a lot of the social Conservatives to support him, and then once he'd won the leadership, did an about turn, and he's come up with policies that any red Tory would support. And his real problem was that having abandoned the social Conservatives, he's also frozen out and even purged many of the red Tories who supported Peter MacKay. That includes MPs, it includes political staffers and ordinary party members. I mean, I heard from ordinary party members saying, I didn't want to go to this convention, I didn't want to be a delegate because I knew I wasn't welcome. So the very people who might have got him out of this jam, he made unwelcome. So therefore, he's got a problem of his own making that he's got to resolve. And I think JD's point about coming out with the environmental plan early is a good one.
Yeah, if not, right, he risks having weeks go by here with the Liberals in particular, but opposition parties defining where the Conservatives are in climate change before he even gets his own plan out the door. Susan, let's shift the gears here and talk about China. And we know the story of the two Michaels. Canada imposing sanctions today on 4 high-ranking Chinese officials. Do you detect any kind of a change in the way Canada is now dealing with China after a couple of years here of trying to tread very delicately around the two Michael situations? Are we seeing a change?
Yeah, very definitely. We've been seeing it for a while now. Trudeau using the word trumped up charges, which I don't think he would have used had the last president still be in office. But I think it is the combination of the trials happening, if you want to call them trials. I wonder how you can have a show trial without a show, but I think that's what these were. And also, I think you see Canada acting in concert with other countries, and that's the result of Biden being in. You know, there was the big summit last week with the United States and China up in Anchorage, and an increasingly combative tone there. So I think Canada feels now that the international action it has always wanted on China, it has a better friend in the White House to do that. And we've been seeing that in all kinds of ways.
John, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my question was, where was our ambassador outside both trials of both men? It's not just an academic point. I mean, to me, if you're the ambassador, you should be very visible and very vocal on these issues. And the problem with Dominic Barton is when he's been vocal, he's been saying we should be getting closer to China. And as recently as September, he was advocating that there were business opportunities in China and Canadian businesses should take advantage of that. So, I think our policy is shifting. It's not clear to me that our ambassadors' views are shifting.
Yeah, Joël-Denis, let me ask you about this, and what you see in Canada's China policy, and are we taking a different approach now, and maybe it has something to do with we tried one approach for 2 years and it's not making any dent in the relationship or having any effect on the Chinese, it would seem. So time to try something else.
I think so. We might see a crescendo of pressure coming from Canada now. You mentioned the sanctions against high-ranking Chinese officials. The next step would be to ban officially Huawei from being able to develop the 5G technology in Canada. I think that would be the logical step. And if we come to that, then we could say that Canada is getting serious about its relationship with China.
Let me stay with you quickly here. Prime Minister in Quebec again today, 2 weeks in a row. Big funding announcement, this one for broadband today. He and François Legault side by side. I mean, if that bromance is building, can the election call be far behind?
I think that's a good sign that something is being cooked up, and probably a more serious inclination of the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, for an election this spring. And now people see it as a very critical way to be able to secure a majority of seats by winning more seats in Quebec. And that you can't have François Legault knocking against you during an election campaign, and that's what the Prime Minister is trying to eliminate. François Legault as being a possible adversary in the federal election. So that's something to watch. I would also watch what Doug Ford will do in Ontario. Will Mr. Trudeau try to neutralize also any involvement of Doug Ford in the future federal elections? That remains to be seen.
So much depends on the vaccine rollout and where it is a couple of months from now, Susan. But does it feel like the drum beat's picking up towards a spring election here?
It feels like it. Yeah, I think, as you said, much depends on needles in arms. And I think JD is right. I was watching that Conservative convention to see where was Doug Ford, where was Jason Kenney, where were, I don't know that I've seen a Conservative convention lacking big Conservatives. And I'm sure the Liberals noticed that too. So the time to strike would be on the heels of that convention when the party, despite what it says, looks divided.
All right, John, last 30 seconds for you here. What do you think?
Well, I think that Trudeau might like to have an election right now. The numbers look pretty good for him, although they're a little bit soft. I mean, I think that the NDP are probably, if there was an election, it wouldn't be a disaster for them. And I think the Bloc are looking okay, but the Conservatives are not. So his problem might be finding he needs to find a dance partner, Trudeau, or he needs to alienate all of them if he wants to go down on his budget, for example.
Yeah.
But I think for the Conservatives, wait until the pandemic is past and hope that you can be like Clement Attlee in 1945 in Britain and defeating Winston Churchill. That's about his only chance.
Okay, thank you all. Good to talk to you tonight. We'll talk again soon. Take care, everybody.
Thanks.